in the dying embers of human existence, as the asteroid, a behemoth the size of Texas, hurtles relentlessly toward Earth. The world braces for an apocalyptic end. Deep beneath the bunker, a refuge plunges into the bowels of the earth. Here the chosen gather, their purpose clear, to preserve the very soul of our civilization. The 35 and 70 millimeter prints that encapsulate the magic, the emotion, and the dreams of generations past. These masterpieces, each frame a testament to the human spirit, are carefully cataloged and cradled in the cavernous confines of the bunker. Perhaps there was room for more, for friends and family yearning for salvation, but sacrifices must be made. The movie nerds stand united, the keepers of a flame, promising a future where the art of storytelling endures, transcending the boundaries of time and space. God help us all.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Join us as we watch and discuss films on VOD and streaming platforms, deliberating on whether each one is worthy of salvation or destined for destruction in the face of the impending asteroid apocalypse. You can find more episodes of this podcast on backtotheframerate.com, where you can subscribe and share our show and find us on our socials at Back to the Frame Rate. I am Nathan Schur, and accompanying me is the extraordinary movie maven, Brianna Butterworth. Hello, B.
Hello. How's it going, Nathan?
I'm doing okay. I'm excited that we're back. It's a Monday night, and we're talking movies. What could be better?
Best way to start the week.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Great way.
We've got, I think, an awesome show tonight. We don't have Sam tonight. He is off, floating around the universe somewhere.
We miss you.
We miss you, Sam, if you're listening. Yes. But tonight we are talking about Klute from 1971, directed by Alan J. What is it, B?
Pakula.
Pakula, right? Pakula,
yeah.
not Pakula.
Yeah. Not Pakula. Not Pakula.
Yes. Count Pakula? Yeah. We're going to be talking about this film, giving our ratings and our verdict if this film is going to be saved in our bunker or not. After that, we have a fun segment, which is going to be we did this, I think, a year ago for our 1973.
Something about these noirs just make us.
But I actually think it was for the Exorcist franchise. We did our 1973 Slumber Party, but tonight we're going to do a film noir slumber party, which should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about that more later on after our review. And after that, we might mention a weekly highlight or two. But stick around for all that. Let's get into our discussion about Klute from 1971. B, this is the first time you've seen this, yes?
Yes.
I want to say this is the first time I have seen this, but you remember how last week I mentioned with Night Moves? I wasn't going to say this on the show because I'm going to lose all my movie credibility here, but I could have sworn when I watched Night Moves last week, I'd never seen it. And I've seen it only 7 years ago. So I'm logging my Letterboxd entry for Klute, and lo and behold, it tells me that I have seen this before. Again, no recollection. I don't know what's going on. If it is something in the water, something about
noir movies.
It is noir movies. There's two noir movies in a row. 1970s neo-noir movies. Leaving my brain. I don't get it. And these aren't bad movies either.
No, they're just too immersive,
That's what it is. We'll just chalk it up to that. So Alan J. Pakula, this is his second feature film. He did 16 movies in his career. This is part of what has been known to be the Paranoia trilogy, the first of them, followed by The Parallax View and All the President's Men. 2 movies I know I have seen.
And they're both good. But, for our viewers, this trilogy, it wasn't intended that way. There are movies in between even, but it just sort of retrograded into that.
Yeah. And he had a pretty great career going into Sophie's Choice in the early 80s. Presumed Innocent, Harrison Ford film. underrated, really underrated, shadowed between a lot of like the Indiana Jones franchise. And then he got into like the Jack Ryan movies. And this movie, I think, was sandwiched right between those. Really good film. And he did a John Grisham movie, The Pelican Brief. So I was just looking at his IMDb, and these are things that stood out. Really prolific career. So yeah, and died tragically in a car accident in the late 90s. Sad.
Very sad. I do think his career was more hit or miss. I watched his 70s catalog. Great underrepresented movie, Comes a Horseman.
Oh,
really great Jane Fonda vehicle where she returns to her father's roots and does a Western. It's wonderful.
I will have to get it. That's that might be something to do for my own personal retrospective someday.
Yeah.
Okay. So Klute came out on June 23rd, 1971. And the budget was $2.5 million, which would be about $19.5 million today. Box office, $12.5 million, about $97 million today. Pretty profitable.
Nice.
Yeah. Glad there actually is some box office data on this.
Yeah.
It also came out the same weekend as McCabe and Miss Miller. And also the racing film Le Mans, which is a film starring Steve McQueen, which I haven't seen.
It's good.
Yeah. Jane Fonda won an Academy Award for Best Actress at the 44th Academy Awards the following year. Also was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, but lost to a film called The Hospital, written by Patty Chayefsky, known for Network, and was written by Patty Chayefsky and directed by Arthur Hiller, known for Love Story. The film star George C. Scott. So I might check that out sometime. I never even heard of it.
Nope.
So, okay.
I'm upset though. Klute should have won.
So let's get to. I actually forgot to see what else was nominated that year. I should have seen, but let me just mention quickly the plot synopsis. So here we go. Bree Daniel, a New York City call girl, becomes, this is from the internet, so I can't always read what comes through on the internet, enmeshed in an investigation into the disappearance of a business executive. Detective John Klute is hired to follow Bree and eventually begins a romance with her, but it appears that he hasn't been the only person on her trail. When it becomes clear that Bree is being targeted, it is up to her and Klute to figure out who is after her before it's too late.
Dun, dun, dun.
I have part of the trailer from Klute. Here it is.
Bree Daniels?
One man is missing. 2 girls lie dead, and somebody is on the other end of the phone. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Who is it?
Bree Daniels. Can I come in?
Come in.
Bree Daniels, girl on the brink. Somewhere among her clientele is a freak who murders call girls.
Sit down.
And a wholly incredible cop who insists her life is worth saving.
Well, there you go. See, these days, when the phone rings, it's not a heavy breather. It's usually someone wanting to update your Google listing or
sell you something.
Let's talk about this film here.
Dinner scene.
This dinner scene, because this, I dug my claws right into this. You got a group of about 10 people here, and they're just chattering away. Conversations are crossing. First of all, very Robert Altman-esque, the beginning of this.
Yes.
And first thing that jumped out at me, there's the sun-drenched dining room with all these windows. And I love how, you have Donald Sutherland as Klute, and the camera lingers on him for a moment as he is meticulously taking a bite of a single string bean on his fork. He's so deliberate about it. And I think we learn a lot about who he is before he even speaks a word.
Yes.
And there are these glances back and forth between there's a husband and wife, which I guess are Mr. and Mrs. Gruneman.
Yeah.
And it leads us to believe that these two are the happiest 2 people on the planet. They're so in love. And I love her eyes, Mrs. Gruneman's eyes in this shot. But then you get this smash cut to exactly where Gruneman was sitting. And it's now nighttime and the chair is empty.
It's so jarring.
We don't know how much time has passed. It could have been hours. It could be a day. It could be weeks. But Klute and Mr. Grumman are there and they're being questioned by the police. But this initial smash cut to that empty chair just says so much. And Grumman, he's just ripped away from existence, and we never see him again, and
Nope.
not even a picture of him. And because I don't remember this movie at all, I am actually still waiting for this mystery to be solved. Like, what happens to him? And that's really not what this movie is about in a lot of ways. No.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I think what you're talking about with Sutherland rang to me as well, because I was like, oh, this is straight out of the 50s. Like, this guy is our classic noir hero. Like, that's what's going to happen here. It set up that expectation for me very quickly. And I just knew I was going to be in for, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to watch this movie because it was jarring. It was really surprising.
Yeah. There's a moment where the police, there's a letter that is revealed that her husband wrote. And I could not forget the line of dialogue that the police say, like, remember, they tell Mrs. Grumman this, remember, it was written by a very disturbed man. This is her husband they're talking about. They're casting all these assumptions about him without any real knowledge of what happened. There's little regard for her feelings in this moment. And the scene just underscores a recurring theme in 70s paranoia thrillers where institutions, especially law enforcement, are depicted as impersonal and dismissive in their prioritizing, procedure over empathetic engagement. So it just to a T, it is falling right into line with these themes in these types of movies.
That's a great point. And it also immediately underscores duplicity, right? Like, it says your husband had a double life. This happens all the time. This is very common. And the movie is doing that. They're showing you, one hand, and it's sort of a magic trick. Like, don't look at what's going on back here. Don't look at this double life. It's really foreshadowing a lot of what's about to happen.
100%. We meet Bree Daniels.
Her
and
intro.
This is actually also one of my favorite scenes because I don't think much has changed in the following decades when it came to the auditioning process for models and actresses. Probably even worse in a lot of ways. So, this movie set the stage. Women are going to be objectified by nameless, faceless corporate people. I look at this scene, all the women are sitting down, and the ridiculous pictures of the models hanging above them, symbolizing this unattainable goal for most of them. And it's almost like mocking them. But the people making these decisions, their heads are cropped out of frame, and we are left with the faces of these poor women, exposed to this analysis, and it's so dehumanizing. So I again, and we don't even I didn't even recognize Jane Fonda in this because she has this haircut that
it's her anti-Barbarella haircut.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Did you see any of the interviews with Jane Fonda about this, the hairdo?
Yeah, I think she said she went to her then husband's barber and just was like, she was looking for something that was it made her feel tougher or something?
It might have been, but it looks like battle armor, like it's a helmet.
Yeah, it does. And this scene too, I think right away, it's not just talking about the objectification of women. I think it's really the movie's making a statement on the lack of agency that we feel under a paranoia, under like a panopticon, right? Just feeling like there's some other entity that's in control all of the time. And that really gets to the heart of Bree's character later in the film.
So after this, Bree visits her first client.
Hilarious scene.
Which is,
oh
first
my
of all,
God.
I have to admit, I had to go onto Urban Dictionary to get confirmation of what half and half is. We're not going to talk about it here, but yeah, anyone that wants to find out.
Some of this is a little dated, but this scene is so funny. First of all, we have to talk about it. This movie is shot beautifully. Like, it's showing things that I think are a little progressive for the time, but it also just looks so gorgeous. And even this guy's like terrible apartment with his terrible couch, like even that is just, it's beautiful to look at. I don't know.
Yeah. I love how she just flops herself on that couch. And, we could talk for hours about the costuming and the wardrobe in this because there's a lot to discuss there. But, she does the clothes that she's wearing isn't all that revealing,
No, 70s street style.
but when she comes to his apartment, this first John's apartment, I think it's really fascinating how she like falls into the couch and like spreads out there. But like it's her clothing is designed to like, tear away or like open up to like just the way it needs to.
Yeah.
And she's good. She knows what she's doing. She's in full control of this.
I like that, in this movie, her character's given so much dignity and the profession is treated so respectfully. Like this is a job. Brie Daniels gets up and she goes to work and she might like to have another job and she talks to her therapist, which we'll get into, about why she chooses to do this job, but she's good at it, right? She knows how she can do it. She's great. And we get that wonderful scene of her looking at her watch,
which is with the John. Yeah.
Which is amazing. Yeah. But really the heart of this is he's right out of the 50s. She's right out of the 70s. And she really is this modern woman. And it's really a trait I'm learning of Pakula is to just have these incredibly three-dimensional women. The movie's really not making any moral judgment on her character or her profession. And it's putting that right up there.
No, 100%. This might be one of the strongest portrayals of a female in a film I think I've ever seen. I mean, honestly, yes, it's interesting that it's in the form of a call girl, but it really is. It's pretty amazing that the level of depth in complexity, how independent she is. She has full control over her identity, full control over her sexuality. So I've never seen, and in 1971, that's incredible.
And she's making choices that are based on very internal fears and her own paranoias and her own motivations and her own desires. Like she's really given not just agency, like in a very, because I feel like a lot of older classic noirs, women were given agency, but here she's really given depth. And that's something that we don't always get to see. So,
So Klute finds Brie. There's this, I thought, the amusing exchange where they're talking between this door and the door. This isn't that big a deal, but like, I love how she's not letting him in. He wants to question her. And in this moment, how back in the day where like doors had that little chain on it? And did you think when she closed the door, she was going to unchain it to let him in?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yes. And that is such a fake out because I talked to a few other people about this that have seen this movie and like, yes, that is everyone is led to believe that she is going to close the door, let him in. So I'm not alone in this. I think that's great.
No. It's wonderful.
What do you think of, so there's after this, there's a lot of scenes between Brie and her therapist. I was reading that a lot of these are all improvised. There's about 2.5 hours of footage that was shot between Jane and this actress. It felt very improvised. And that's the one thing, I mean, there's I think there's 3 scenes with her therapist in here. And there's a great monologue. I meant to capture and I didn't. I'm going to drop it in. But there's a great monologue that she has about how being a call girl, how I feel encapsulates a lot about her character, how it gives her power, it gives her control, it makes her feel not alone. These scenes go on for sometimes like 2.5, 3 minutes. I do feel they really slow down and drag this movie a little bit.
So, sorry, say what you're going to say.
I was saying that's really it. That I didn't really love these scenes that much because that felt they were like, we're just gonna let these cameras roll and improvise and riff. I could not stand the way the therapist was sitting and her neck was going to break. Like this was the most distracting thing for me.
Oh my gosh.
People can't watch this, but like, she's like sitting like this and like, Like, so tell me, did you notice how she was sitting?
Yeah, I guess it didn't strike me.
If you go back and watch it, it is the weirdest thing. She's not looking at her. She's just like her head's turned 90 degrees, crooked, looking at her. It's like, what is wrong with this woman?
So two things on the therapist. I don't know if you read, originally it was written for a man, and Jane Fonda
Yeah.
was like, this is the least believable thing about Brie, is that she would give all this up about herself to a man. And I
Yes.
think that's absolutely the right choice. And I think that's a lot of the reason that this movie, her character comes across as true as it
Hmm.
does, is because of that. The other thing about the therapist scenes and what you're getting at, the length of them didn't bother me, but I'm wondering if this felt, it didn't feel like two movies, but it did for me feel like either the detective stuff was really going to work for some people, or the emotional backbone of it was really going to work for some people. I felt like the mystery was the weakest part of this film. And
Hmm.
I'm wondering if that's sort of how you're feeling, like there are just sort of these, it's not all quite the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
I think I might agree with that to a degree. I didn't
Yeah.
find the mystery probably all that compelling, where I
Mhm.
found it to be an incredible character study
Right.
of Brie.
Yeah.
And I could have just spent 2 hours with Brie, because
Right.
honestly, I didn't find John Clute to be that interesting at all.
Oh, and I want to talk about that. So the character study thing for Brie, you can have this movie without the Gruneman mystery, where it's just call girl paranoia,
Hmm.
someone stalking her, and that's the movie, and she develops a romance. And I think it's a lot stronger
Hmm.
that way. It's almost distracting. I'm a very gullible movie watcher. I figure out nothing. I am surprised by almost every twist to this day. And if I have figured out your mystery halfway through the film, it's not very good.
Yeah.
And so I did struggle with that.
I wasn't like, I didn't figure out any mystery actually for a while, because I did not remember anything from this movie. I found it wasn't until after I saw the whole film. I'm not going to jump to the end quite yet, but it is foreshadowed early on
Mhm,
who the baddie is in this, if
mhm.
you really think about it. And as I was watching those scenes, I was like it was going right through me. I really wasn't making much sense of it. For a little while, I thought there was a chance that Clute was behind this, because
Oh.
he was such a blank canvas to me. And I
Mhm,
was wondering, well, the common denominator in all of this is the one person that we
mhm.
don't know anything about, that is being shoved in our face, who happens to be every single, is
Right.
everywhere. You know, John Clute is teleports all over this movie. Like, it's a little creepy how he just happens to find a basement apartment in the same
Mm.
building she's in.
Yeah,
He
that's
shows
crazy.
up everywhere. And I almost kind of wonder, is he even real?
Mm.
Because he just somehow shows up in the most convenient times. And I feel like sometimes he was inserted after the fact. Like, we need to do some reshoots and just have like Donald Sutherland just look, at somebody, just so that there's a reaction of him.
Yeah,
There's,
he's really not given a lot to do except be in the right place at the right time, and talk about that with when, there's someone on the roof. They think there's someone on the roof and they're in
yeah.
Bree's apartment, which really is the catalyst for them spending so much time together and trying to get to the heart of this mystery. Did you buy their romance?
Mm. I didn't really question it that much, but I don't really think that, like, if you had to ask me if their romance is going to be authentic, if it's going to last, no. I like how it leaves the romance,
Me too.
and a lot, that final shot.
Mhm.
But the problem I have is that, as I just stated a minute or two ago, is that I really am unsatisfied with the level of depth they give the Clute character, to the point where, why is this movie even called Clute? Why isn't it called Brie?
Well, 'cause
And
Clute's a friggin' great name for a
it
movie.
is, but I'd be
But
fine.
it's Bree's
It
movie.
is 100% Brie's movie.
Yeah.
Klute is the Sutherland character. I feel is playing such a supporting
So
role in this.
wooden.
He is, and that's why I was like suspicious of him. Like I'm waiting
Mm.
for him to be,
I can see
because
that.
he has given me these crazy eyes throughout this whole movie. I'm ready for him to take that leap into like become the villain. So yeah,
Mm.
favorite shot. I want to talk about that for one moment before we get
Yes.
into one thing here. Bree is walking through that textile or sewing factory, and I think she's going
Oh,
to is it the character of, we didn't go to the cast yet, but I think there's a character by the name of Goldfarb. Is that who he is? Goldfarb?
it's her John. That's just a lonely old
Yeah,
man.
only old
The
man. But that shot where she is walking through there, it's through this like darkened
stunning.
room. And it's not just that, but there's a moment where she is, there's almost like a glass pane or a filter that's on there,
Yes.
and her
Yes.
face is almost distorted as she's approaching, and then she just stops to look at him. It is one of the most gorgeous shots
Yes.
I've ever seen. And the walk up also, like as she's going through the
Mhm.
textile mill there, it's incredible.
Gordon Willis, man.
Yeah,
He
it's
made every movie he did with Pakula, he made better. I
yeah.
mean, the Caravaggio of cinematographers, seriously. I mean, this guy can paint in the darks like nobody's business. I loved when they meet her former pimp, and there's Klute and the former pimp on the couch, and he's just shadowed in darkness. And you really have the light in the dark in this conversation. I mean, the movie is telling stories. The visual storytelling in this film is off the charts.
Are we talking about the Roy Scheider
Roy
character?
Schneider, yeah.
Roy Scheider. I love Roy Scheider. Of course,
Incredible.
everybody knows him from the Jaws
Jaws.
franchise. I like Roy Scheider a lot. I question a little bit if he was miscast in this, because I love him in a later scene, but
Mhm.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I don't want to hijack this, but the way that first of all, the whole interaction, because we're introduced to him, and I think in general, I want to talk about Roy Scheider as a pimp, but Roy Scheider is not the physique, not the type of actor I would first think of as a pimp.
That's what I liked.
It is definitely against type. But the first interaction, the way it's shot, I'm really digging. Scheider, like you said, he's fully in shadow. We don't see his
Mhm.
face. He's in silhouette. And that's what I think we can see Klute talking to him. I find the casting of Scheider, it's inspired, but I'm unsure if it works for me totally. I find him to be a little too clean. I think that's what it is. I think I'm just a little too clean to be a pimp. However, the thing is, pimps and madams in this film don't seem to be demonized or characterized as terrible people necessarily. Nope. And in many ways, they are the complete opposite of the evil, faceless, nameless corporate entities who treat women as commodities that can be discarded or treated like children or even murdered. So no call girls were actually harmed, I don't think, by any pimps or madams in this film.
No.
They are portrayed as very clean cut, intelligent, organized, family-oriented, working-class people who
it's just a job.
And I don't think that's by chance either. So the fact that
she fell out with Scheider. She was saying that, like, all they do is take your money. All they do is say, "Oh, put this in, take your money." But
they're not good people, but they're not painted as we're not demonizing them.
They're not violent offender. Yeah.
Compared to how like pimps are portrayed, like in Taxi Driver,
Sure. Well, sure.
But the pimps and madams in this film, they're depicted as this being a legit industry. There's a lot of structure. Everyone seems to be very family oriented. They care about their family of call girls. The call girls. No one is quite. I've never seen it shown like this before. Mm-hmm. But that said, when Bree, and I'm jumping ahead here, when Bree returns, what is it, to the Scheider character? I forget his name in the movie. It's Frank, in the club, and sits down like on his throne. Mm-hmm. Is my favorite like scene in this movie. And the look that Scheider gives Klute is priceless. It's the smallest of glances, but with those eyes, he's saying like, "Fuck off, she's mine." I love that. But I do have suspicions, and I said this before, that Roy Scheider probably wasn't looking at Donald Sutherland, and I feel like it was an afterthought to include Sutherland in this club scene, because how did he even get there? I don't even know if this is a fever dream, if this really happened. And Klute is just showing up out of nowhere.
Don't lose the forest for the trees on this.
I get it. But still, it is a great, I want the shot where she's just flopped on him to be a poster on my wall. I love that so much. But
the cast of characters in this movie is amazing. Scheider's just one of them. We see a lot of incredible supporting cast here. And like you said, they're portrayed. I mean, this movie has a perspective, and the perspective is paranoia and anti-conglomerate and a real conscientious anxiety around the State of the Union. And if you sort of zoom out, yes, this movie's a little progressive for the time, although I do think it falls into some tropes. It's not flawless by today's standards. It is much better. I think the ending is something we're gonna talk about. But if you zoom out, this is firmly in like the late second wave of feminism. And it's not shocking that this movie is being made and that that Jane Fonda's, nascent in her activism at this stage is thinking about this and bringing this to the character and bringing this to, she worked with call girls and madams to prepare for the role. She says she knew some call girls in France. She called them up to see, if she could get some information from them. She's really trying to make this world and this role three-dimensional and feel so lived in and feel so human. And I think it's such a product of its time, not just in paranoia, but also in that progressivism.
Yeah, she's gone on the record stating, how she prepared for this role, and also when the set was built or the apartment was built, she lived in it for maybe a week or so. But
how funny that what was a dingy New York apartment would now be like $4,000 a month.
Oh, I know, that would be high-end apartment now,
right?
Yeah. She also, right before filming began, wanted to back out of this movie as well, because she felt like she wasn't up to this. Like she couldn't actually perform.
She said, get Faye Dunaway to do it.
Because Faye Dunaway had a very difficult, damaged upbringing and could dig into those emotions, I guess, is what she was trying to say.
Yeah, there's some things that, yes, it avoids the hooker with a heart of gold trope, which, like Ebert wrote about. I think, that's been pretty lauded and rightfully so. But it does fall into she probably had a troubled past and she just hasn't met the right man. It does sort of, it's not perfect by today's standards, but it is a lot better. And I mentioned earlier, we were talking offline about Gloria Steinem's A Bunny's Tale. And, just that came out in, I want to say like 63. It was the early 60s, so like 10 years before. But famously, Steinem's undercover piece where she went into the bunny ranch and wrote an expose from the inside on the treatment there. So this is in the cultural consciousness of women, of sex work being work right now. We have birth control being legalized. We have the Civil Rights Act. I mean, all of this is happening.
One other thing, because Arlene Page is one of the call girls that they're also looking for as part of this mystery. And this is
we haven't even talked about this. There's now some dead call girls.
This is a great scene as well, where Klute and Bree go to her apartment. And I think this says a lot about the situation with people that have this addiction and whatnot, because Arlene and her boyfriend are there and they are begging them to leave because they say they're strung out waiting for the dealer. And I love this when the dealer shows up and then bolts, and we see and Bree just waiting there. And finally, Arlene and her boyfriend, they give chase. And when they come back, the scene shifts to something like almost tragic, and nothing is spoken by any of the characters, but their body language is really expressing so much. Arlene comforts her boyfriend, which is just this haunting portrayal of, addiction and dependency. And then the Klute and Bree eventually leave, but it's a very poignant moment.
It's bleak.
In this. It is bleak.
It's bleak.
But this leads right into that club scene. I never really understood, is this what triggered Bree to like bolt out of his car? Because I don't understand where that club scene now, because I jumped the gun before on that, why she leaves Klute and goes back to Frank, her old pimp. what is going on here? Because the movie absolutely loses me. It's a wonderful scene where I think it's a oneer where she's dancing with some random
Yeah.
guys, making out with him. I love the scene so much, but I don't understand where this is in position of this story.
At this point, has she gone to her therapist yet and said, I just can't say that I like him? She can't admit to her feelings. And so she kind of bolts. I wonder if the display of codependency
It could
sort of
be,
from her
but
previous.
this is directly after they leave Arlene in the boyfriend's apartment immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just wondering where that other therapist
It
conversation
is
is.
somewhere around here.
Yeah. I think it's really more to do with her own fear of like legitimate intimacy that's not for work.
Yeah.
She's like, now he's seeing her life, right? And she has that great, he's seen me ugly, he's seen me terrible, he's seen me this, now he's really seeing her.
Oh, by the way, speaking of intimacy, I have to talk about the scene. It's a little bit before this, but Bree, she has her armor, her walls that she puts up, but
Mhm.
she gets scared when she hears, I think, something on a roof. I forget what it is. And she goes to Klute. This is before that.
Mm,
This scene here where Klute and Bree do make love,
mhm.
and and afterwards is incredible because one of the biggest mic drop moments I feel when she leaves him. And I'm going to say this here,
Yeah.
but for people that are sensitive about this, cover your ears. But this is a pretty vulgar thing she says. All right, she says, "Don't feel bad because you didn't make me
Mm,
come. I never come with a John. Don't feel bad about losing your virtue. I sort of
yeah.
knew you would. Everybody does," and walks out.
Walks
I
out.
mean, ouch.
Yeah.
Calls him a John, despite the fact, that she came to him. And obviously Klute has feelings for her. He didn't lose his virtue, because he feels things for her. So
Yeah.
this cuts so deep. I had to talk about that.
It does. It does. And it's not a place because it's a great example of her hard edges
Mhm.
and her, she'll put defenses up, she'll throw her elbows up. That's not all she does. She's also good at her job. She's also friendly. She's also funny. She's charming. But she does have this side to her, and we really get to become familiar with it over and
Yeah.
over throughout the film. And I think that club scene's another time.
The final third, toward the end of this movie, I actually start to get a little lost and confused what goes on here.
Yeah.
Because to fast forward here, Arlene Page is found dead. And
There's a
then
lot of tape recorders.
there's a scene where Klute and Frank get into a fight, and Klute is attacking Frank. I don't even know what happens here, why Klute reached a boiling point.
I was so glad that we saw some emotion from him though,
It's the
because
only
he's
time
been
I feel like, yeah.
it's really the only time. And, I was thinking about why is this such a great character study for Brie and why is it so rare? Pakula is really employing so many different devices to tell us different sides of Brie. We see her therapist and those shots where she's
Yeah.
alone. We have the actual narrative of the film. And then we get to hear her in these haunting voiceovers through the recording when the killer or the person stalking her is
Yeah.
calling. And, so we really see all these different dimensions of Brie and who she is with different people. I mean, that voiceover stuff is chilling. It's meant to be sexy at the time, but when you hear it back, it has a whole different context. We don't ever
Mm.
get that for Klute. We
Yeah.
see him a lot, but that is only afforded to Brie. But Klute is really a paper doll, I think, in this
Yeah.
movie. And it's
Yeah.
I think a little bit of a weakness of the film.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland could do a lot more, I think.
Yeah. We have a Gene Stapleton sighting. Like,
What? We do?
she's All in the Family. Edith Bunker.
Oh.
You're not familiar with
Yeah,
this.
no, I am. I just don't remember where she was in the movie.
She plays Goldfarb's secretary.
Oh my God. Yes.
I thought this was like
Everyone's his friend. Poor man.
this is so hysterical because I feel like she's playing Edith Bunker, the same character. It's like, this is like, she just left Archie, she goes to work, and this is her day job. It's like straight from like the set of All in the Family.
Mm.
Talks the same way.
Everything that happens once we get to this point in the film, I think is As much as I expected it, and I had figured out, that it's not about Gruneman. Those letters were faked. He was not leading a double life. It's the person who actually set up the investigation. It's his boss.
Yeah.
It's this man, and Jane Fonda would have no way of remembering him, which is said multiple times throughout the movie, which adds to this facelessness that you talk about.
Yeah.
And so when we get to this final showdown, ooh, terrifying.
So this character, his name is Peter Cable, played by
Yeah.
Charles Ciaffi, and I have to admit, I was really perplexed and underwhelmed how this movie wraps up. I didn't find him that interesting. Peter Cable, he's this, he's just portrayed as a unfeeling, cold bastard. I find, it's
Yeah,
unnerving how he rationalized the murders he committed.
exactly.
Klute shows up at exactly the right moment to save Bree. And this is what I don't get. I suppose Cable realized he wasn't going to escape and decides to take his own life by jumping out a window. I think that's what happens.
Was there a shot? I thought.
No,
No?
I think he just jumps out the window. And I'm still wrestling with this because I found it very unsatisfying. Number one, that's how it ends, but maybe that's the point. For all the crimes Cable committed, he won't be arrested or tried for any of them. He so willingly took his own life that it gives us little satisfaction that he's dead and the case is closed, but it's unsatisfying. Who knows what other crimes Cable may have committed? And I bet there are other car girls out there that he probably murdered or was
I
responsible
mean, there
for.
were. Yeah.
And we'll never know. And I think that might be what the point is.
Yeah. I think as a mystery, it's not exciting or inventive, so that aspect of it really just didn't do it for me. Like I said earlier, I think we could have done away with that whole part of it. It's Jane Fonda's performance even here, where she's trying to be a little flip and resolute. Oh no, this is totally fine, as he's trying to justify his murders to her. But really, this movie has two endings.
Yeah.
So you can look at this as the unsatisfying ending, or you can settle with what I think is the better ambiguous ending, where again, we get to hear voiceover versus something on screen, and they're not matching up, I don't think.
Yeah, because I think it ends with what sounds like probably a voice message or tape message. What do they call it back in the 70s or so? I don't know, but where I think it's a message left for her therapist, sounds like, where it says that she's moving on with her life with John Klute. But again, it's very ambiguous how committed she
like,
is
I'm
to
never
that
going to
life.
leave New York, and he's just a guy. It's not really going to work, and
She says, but I might see you next week also after.
Yeah,
which I like that. I do like that because
too.
she's never really far from the life.
And as a character study of Brie, I think this movie's amazing. On almost any other level, it's okay. It's serviceable.
Any other thoughts on this, or should we take a break?
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
You ain't even sat down yet.
And that TV over there, since you've been in the room, is a woman with her breasts is hanging out.
You ain't even bothered to look. You just been clocking me.
I know I'm pretty, but I ain't as pretty as a couple of titties. I'm not eating because I'm not hungry. I'm not sitting because I'm not staying. I ain't looking at the movie because I already seen it 7 years ago. It's the Mac. Max Julian, Carol Speed, and Richard Pryor. I ain't scared of you, I just don't like you. And that envelope right there had some payoff money. Alabama's moving on to some greener pastures. We're not negotiating. I don't like to barter. What's in that envelope right there is for my peace of mind. My peace of mind is worth that much, not 1 penny more.
Thank you for everyone who's tuned into our podcast. If you're enjoying it, our podcast, please hit the subscribe button to get new episodes in your feed every week. We don't have a big budget for paid advertising, so we rely on you, our listeners, to help us spread the word. The best way to support us is by sharing our podcast with friends or posting out on social media. You can find us at backtotheframerate.com or follow us at backtotheframerate on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. Lastly, we'd be incredibly grateful if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We thank you for your support. We're going to get to our final thoughts, our ratings, and our verdict on Klute. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go?
You can go.
I'll go. All right. I think this movie has an incredible setup, an even better act 2, where our protagonists get very deep into this mystery. But the final act I find very disjointed, handling the few cinematic confrontations. The third act, similar to last week with Night Moves, I felt very rushed, as with this one. I think Jane Fonda is wonderful in this film. I didn't really talk much about it, but I questioned the authenticity, if her character, like her, would in fact really exist in the world of call girls. Jane Fonda herself, like we talked about, had serious doubts if she could pull off this character. And as we know, she, just before the movie started, she tried to pull out of this whole film with Faye Dunaway instead. But Fonda is still excellent here. But she may have been onto something, because I could buy her as a struggling New York actress or model, but I don't know if I really bought her as a call girl. She just has so much confidence. And I don't know if this version of a call girl really exists in the real world. At least I've never seen it. I've never seen it depicted in a movie before, but she just had this air of like being above it all, which I just don't know if that's realistic. Donald Sutherland is playing the Terminator, if the Terminator was programmed to be a detective and not on a mission to kill Sarah Connor. I keep thinking of Kyle Reese's line, listen and understand, the Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. It absolutely will not stop until you are dead. This is really, I think, what James Cameron was modeling the Terminator after. Just look at Klute, Donald Sutherland's performance, Arnold. There you go. I wish there was more to his character. I just wish there was more. And it's just not much of an arc either. I don't really know where he ends any differently than when he begins. Overall, like I said, I like the setup. I think it is an intriguing character study. I love the focus on the Jane Fonda character. This may be one of the most strongest portrayals of women in cinema I've ever seen. Very good film, and I'm giving it a strong 3.5, but this movie's falling short for vault status because I think the third act could have been a lot better.
Yeah. I totally bought her as an escort. That wasn't a hard sell for me. Again, Brie is the best part of this movie. She is the shining light. There's so many other elements to this movie. I mean, Pakula was really making a perfect character study, and the rest falls apart. I don't know that character study is enough. It would have been enough to carry the whole film if they had trimmed out the fat. But by trying to add in those other things, it just leaves me unsatisfied with too many elements to really have given it the masterpiece sort of title. And I do feel like in retrospect, a lot of people are revisiting this movie now and recognizing it as, probably better than folks thought it was when it came out. But I'm with you. It's a strong 3.5 for me. I probably would have put it in the vault just for Jane Fonda's character study, because I don't know how often we're going to see that in the early 70s. So I think that is special enough to have carried it, but I'm not married to that. I don't want to be holding this to a higher standard than I hold some of these more masculine movies.
Okay. So are you saying yes or no?
I would have said yes. Yeah.
What do we do when we have just two of us split? It's not majority. So I guess for now,
we'll pick a number.
We're going to say at the moment, no, it's not going to make the vote unless we have our third host, who might chime in one day, have an opinion on this. But we're going to table this for now. We're not going to make a final decision. Maybe when we get to our end of month Film Noir Awards, and Sam has had a chance to chime in on this, we will have a final decision. A reason to tune in for that episode. Okay, we are going to get to our next segment, which is going to be our Film Noir Slumber Party. It's game time.
It's game time.
The guest list has been compiled so that you go out in style. You don't mind if my friends introduce themselves to you, Leroy? And let the games begin!
It's our film noir slumber party. Not a very film noir bumper, but it's what I had.
It was good. I liked it.
Okay. So this is what we're doing. It is, we're gonna have a slumber party. We're gonna invite some friends over. We're gonna watch 4 movies that are in the film noir or neo noir genre. We're gonna watch movies from 8 o'clock to 4 in the morning, and
Woo!
we each have 4 movies that are on our list that we are going to submit for consideration. Mm-hmm. After we describe these 4 movies or mention what they are, we are then going to take turns picking one of these 4 movies that will be ultimately shown at our slumber party. So we'll have, those are 2 of the movies that will be shown. Then I will pick one movie of the remaining 3 from your list, and you will pick one movie from the remaining 3 movies from my list. Thus, we will have 4 films.
A perfect 4.
A perfect 4. On top of that, we are going to pick what snacks or beverages.
That's very controlling. I don't know if our slumber party guests are going to love us after that. We tell them when to watch what movie and what to eat.
Exactly. It's for us. People at home can do whatever they want to do, but we can figure out how we're going to stay awake for these movies with caffeine and sugar or some heavy carbs, whatever it takes. We might be ordering out, and showing up in the middle. Who knows? It doesn't matter.
I didn't even think of that.
I'll be honest. I have not put any thought into this yet, so we're just going to wing that part.
Oh boy.
So,
good.
We'll see. So I'm going to pull up my list here, and shall I go first? Do you want to go first?
No, you do it.
Okay. So I have my 4 movies here. I am going to begin. Again, I went through the entire last century of movies to pick from here. So it could be from the 40s through the 90s.
And for listeners at home, Nathan and I don't know each other's lists. So it's a surprise.
Okay. I'm going to go first classic. Film noir. All right. I'm going with Gilda from 1946.
It's on my list.
Oh, no way. Come on.
Yep. Our amazing femme fatale.
Okay. So perfect spicy cocktail for a film noir.
I had a spicy margarita.
Oh my God. We're 2 in sync. It's about a dangerous triangle between the 3 characters, a brooding gambler named Johnny. Glenn Ford plays that. It's wealthy boss. And of course, Rita Hayworth. The film sizzles with tension, with as Gilda and Johnny. It's got smoldering glances and all the tangled love, hate energy you could want. And you got iconic costumes, moody cinematography. And plus, who wouldn't want to witness Rita Hayworth's legendary "Put the Blame on Mame" number around midnight?
They said that old Mother Nature was up to her old trick. That's the story that went around, but here's the real lowdown. Put the blame on Mame, boy. Put the blame on Mame.
That's why I am nominating Gilda. Okay.
I'm with you. I love it.
So you have the choice. Since it's on your list, you could.
I might pick a different movie.
Use your strategy, however you want. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So my classic pick, another amazing femme fatale. This is a little on the nose, but I thought, if we're having a sleepover in the year of our Lord Whitney Houston 2024, folks may not have seen Double Indemnity. Of course, the amazing Barbara Stanwyck vehicle. We have an incredible femme fatale here. She is jumping off the screen. This movie has twists and turns and trains. And for a movie pairing snack, I picked a dark chocolate caramel because that is, to me, just everything that Barbara Stanwyck is.
Oh, you want to do the snacks now?
I mean, we did spicy margarita for.
I was figuring we would do our snacks once we have
Okay, fine.
Okay, that's fine. But I like the spicy margarita. I want one now. Okay.
All right. What's your second pick?
My second pick. You know what I want to bring to our film noir slumber party? Some unhinged Gary Oldman.
Oh.
I am going with Romeo is Bleeding from 1993, directed by Peter, I think, Medak. So this film follows Jack, played by Gary Oldman, and he's a crooked cop whose life is just spiraling out of control when he's ordered to take down a seductive, ruthless Russian hit woman played by Lena Olin. There's a lot of dark humor in this film, and it's definitely taking a lot of cues from classic film noir, but it's really turning it on its head. It's got the dangerous femme fatale type in here, detective getting in over his head. But I love Romeo's Bleeding because it's just very stylish, and Gary Oldman is really terrific in this. So Romeo's Bleeding, 1993, very underrated film. A lot of people passed right over that when it came out. I don't think it really got much of a theatrical release. I think it just may have gone straight to video, possibly small release.
I feel like I've seen it. Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
All right. I am going. It is classic, but for a Japanese noir, I'm going with Pale Flower from 1964. Have you seen this?
I haven't.
It's incredible. It's directed by Masahiro Shinoda, and it's this wonderful story about a man who just gets out of prison and is tangled up with the Yakuza and meets a young woman who is gambling, and she wants to raise the stakes higher and higher. This movie is dripping with style. It takes the black and white of American noirs and makes them silvery and metallic, and it rips off the screen. Incredible.
I don't know this, but now I'm putting this on my watch list no matter what.
It's a must watch.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm probably not going to stray too far from your pick, B, because I want to submit for consideration this film I don't know I guess it's considered noir. When I say the title, maybe people don't think of it as noir, but it follows so many of the rules of a suspenseful noir mystery. So I'm going with Akira Kurosawa's 1963 film High and Low.
That's a great movie. Yes.
It puts a unique spin on noir with its class conscious, kidnapping plot.
I think it counts.
I totally does, which I think makes a perfect film for a noir themed movie night. Yeah. The story centers on Toshiro Mifune, because who else would be in a Kurosawa movie?
Sure,
He's this successful businessman whose life is thrown into chaos when the kidnapper mistakenly abducts his chauffeur's son instead of his own. And Mifune faces this moral dilemma: save the child or protect his own fortune, I think is what happens. It's got gritty urban visuals and moral complexity, all scream classic noir. But what's special here is that Kurosawa adds his own depth by exploring social class divides. This is my favorite Kurosawa movie also. So that's why I am throwing it into the ring.
Awesome. Great choice. I have I picked some extras and I was like, we'll just sort of see how this goes. And I'm really struggling right now. I'm so torn. I'm going to have to go. I want something a little modern. I'm going to go with Gone Girl. Just other super strong feminine character here.
Cool.
Again, just like you were saying, I think it follows enough of the rules. I think this could totally be a noir.
I think so. 100%.
Yeah.
Gone Girl. Fincher.
Yep.
Is that 2014?
Oh, don't remind me. I don't know.
I think it just had its 10-year anniversary.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I rewatched it recently. I don't remember what the impetus was, but that movie still is so riveting. If you don't know the twist that's coming, so fun to watch.
Awesome. Okay. My last pick for consideration, I am going with Witness, Peter Weir, 1985. This film has come up so much in this podcast that we should probably make it a drinking game. It's practically a perfect movie. Young Amish boy witnesses the brutal murder in Philadelphia, and Detective John Book, played by Harrison Ford, dives into the investigation only to discover the killers are cops. So he's forced to hide in Amish country, where he finds himself, torn between duty as a cop and his growing bond with Amish people, especially the boy's mom, played by a very fetching Kelly McGillis. I think this film would add a very interesting twist to our film noir slumber party because it bucks the convention of the urban setting. Number one, instead we're in the serene backdrop of Amish country and the Amish community. Cinematography is gorgeous. Tension between the innocence of the Amish people and the corrupt police is biting. And plus, it's a really great fish out of water movie too, to boot. So, Witness.
We really like Peter Weir on this podcast. For folks who've never we're big fans. Anyone in Australia wants to give us a call. We like what you've done.
Last pick.
Sure. Blood Simple.
This close, but
I was surprised you didn't do it.
Because B, I knew you were going to. I'm like, Blood Simple's on my list. I'm like, no, B's doing that one. Blood Simple, Coen Brothers.
I mean, how do you not want to watch it? It's such a fun movie.
I don't know how you don't want to watch it. Okay, so our picks are, we've got Gilda, 1946, Double Indemnity from 1944, High and Low from 1963. We got Pale Flower from 1964. Going chronological order. Blood Simple from 1984. Witness from 1985. Romeo is Bleeding from 1993. And Gone Girl from 2014. We
kind of skipped the 70s, which
it might make sense because we're in the middle of the 70s.
Right. I was like, oh, interesting. Because I was thinking I would probably have added Night Moves to this list, but I wanted to switch it up. Also, not a great slumber party movie. Like Gone Girl is a great slumber party movie.
All right. So here's where it gets fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to pick one of my films that I'm going to definitely add to this list. You're going to pick one of your films. Let's start with that.
Okay.
So
yeah, you've been going first. You do it.
It's curious because there's a lot of synchronicity between our lists here because we both have two movies very similar from the 40s. We have two Japanese films in here, and we've got two movies like neo-noirs from the mid 80s, and then we have two relatively newer films that are like a neo-noir twist on the genre as well, with Romeo's Bleeding and Gone Girl. We really are in sync here, B.
Yeah, we are.
It's kind of weird. So but I'm putting High and Low on as my pick because I love High and Low. I haven't seen it in about 8 years or so. So I want to, and I have my 4K. I haven't opened yet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you got to do that.
All right. So B, from your list, you got to pick one.
I mean, I put together a good list. I will say, you know what? I'll do a movie pairing with you. I say we got to do Pale Flower because I think you need to see that movie.
I want to see it. So Pale Flower. So we're starting in Japan.
Yeah.
All right. So interesting. All right. So High and Low and Pale Flower starting.
I love a theme night, Oh,
are we going to stick with a theme?
Well, so far we just have really niche Japanese noir.
And
all right, so now you pick one of mine.
I have to pick one of yours.
Yep.
I'm going to pick one of yours. So that comes down to Double Indemnity, Gone Girl, or Blood Simple. And this is a no-brainer for me. I'm going with Blood Simple.
Nice. Nice.
Blood Simple from 1984. All right.
And it's a no-brainer for me. I'm going Gilda because I wanted to in the first place.
Okay. Gilda, 1946.
This is good. This gives us a nice breadth of the genre.
So we have two assignments left here. How do we want to order these? Because we've got two Japanese films from the 60s. We got Blood Simple and we got Gilda.
I think we need to end on Blood Simple.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
So we're ending that at, so we have, let's do this quick. So we have 8 p.m., we got 10 p.m., we got 12 a.m., and we got 2 a.m. So we're going to put Blood Simple in our
2 a.m. slot.
2 a.m. slot. How do we want to start this night? Do we want to start it?
How long is High and Low?
We're just going to assume everything fits in a 2 hours.
No, I know, but I just feel like we might want to start with High and Low. I feel like High and Low is a little heady.
High and Low is heavy. It's 2 hours and 23 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like we need to start there and then maybe watch Gilda.
High and low. Yeah, 2 hours and 23 minutes. I'm fine with that. That's a great way to start the night because.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
And how long is in your movie? The Pale Flower, I think, was only an hour and 38 minutes. So we'll put in Gilda. We'll put in Gilda at 10 p.m. I think that takes us to midnight. And then I like the fact that our 12 a.m. movie isn't like some 2.5 hour film.
Yeah.
So that therefore we'll put in Pale Flower there, and Blood Simple at 2 a.m. sounds amazing.
Right.
That's when I want my pizza, and like really,
yeah,
I'm white knuckling it at that point. All right, so high and low, 8 p.m. What do you want to eat? What do you want to drink at 8 o'clock? What do you want for dinner? Are we just doing? I'm assuming we've eaten by now, right?
Yeah, high and low. What do I want?
I mean, it's kind of like a city. Well, for Gilda, I want like a Cosmo or some that cocktail.
No, I was thinking about this actually in terms of just like I would love some chocolates. I think I was just on a chocolate kick for this. Those Pocky candies I thought would be fun.
Okay.
I want candy. It's the third movie of the night. I want waxy candy. I want Twizzlers. I want Nerds gummy clusters.
For 2 a.m. Blood Simple, I'm getting into the carbs.
Interesting.
I am. I'm getting into like pizza, not bad pizza. Like I'm not ordering Domino's. I'm getting like some good like brick oven.
I support this.
Let's do oven.
Let's get some pizza.
Wheel pizza.
Yeah.
I don't know what you like in pizza. We don't have to get that detailed, but we're getting some good pizza.
Yeah, I think pizza's right.
Okay, cool.
Feels like they made that movie on a shoestring budget of like pizza and sleeping in cars.
Yep.
So.
All right. High and low, Gilda, Pale Flower, and Blood Simple is our film noir, neo-noir slumber party.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Maybe that should be just a theme month,
Slumber party.
Okay. Cool. That was fun. All right. Let's do our quick weekly highlight, and then we're out of here. Should I go first? I've been going first all night, so I guess I'll mention. So I saw a lot of films this week, but I think the only thing I'm gonna mention is the one movie that came to Max in the last week that I've been waiting to see for a long time, but I finally got around to seeing it. I saw Tuesday. Tuesday is a new film that I heard a lot about coming out of Telluride from last year. And I had heard awesome things about it. And I'm here to say that it delivers on ambition and originality for sure.
Are you saying you respect it more than you like it?
Maybe. Louise-Dreyfus is in this, and she is stretching herself in ways I've never seen her do before. She plays a mother who is grappling with the challenges of caring for her chronically ill teenager who her daughter's name is Tuesday, which is how this movie is named, and it's played perfectly by an actress named Lola Pettigrew, who I don't think I've seen in a film before. This takes an unusual turn when death arrives in the form of this like mysterious talking bird that can change sizes, and it's interesting, but it's pushing both the mother and daughter to confront mortality in a very surreal way. This movie is not for everyone. And I'm honestly very mixed myself, but it's truly an unforgettable experience watching this. But if anyone's watching this and could be triggered by, experiences of this, it's not for you, but it is something that I've heard that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is getting some Oscar buzz for this. So I wanted to check this out. Cool. And it is something to behold, but I didn't love this movie. I really wanted to like it, but it was,
it happens,
but I'm glad I saw it. And I think that the Dreyfus will get some Oscar buzz for this. I think that's already in the talks.
Is that streaming somewhere, or did
Max,
you go see it?
It is on Max.
Nice. Okay. I'm gonna check it out. Well, I just dove deep into Pakula this week.
Yeah.
And I decided to watch his 70s catalog. So that's the Paranoia trilogy. It's Love, Pain, and the Whole Damn Thing, which has an incredible young Maggie Smith, who's doing way more than that movie deserves because it's not his best. And I mentioned earlier, Here Comes a Horseman, which is James Caan and Jane Fonda. And that movie is really wonderful. There's one movie in 1979 I wasn't able to get to, but I think I did okay. I put a good dent in it and feel like I understand him a little bit more. Loves a character study. Only slightly terrifying to watch All the President's Men immediately before Election Day. But
yes, by the way, we are recording this on Monday, November 4th. Day before election. So
if we sound chipper or anything, that's why. Nothing's happened yet. Nothing's happened yet. But yeah, Pickle, really interesting filmography. I want to dig more into it. I've seen Sophie's Choice, but there's some classics of his that I haven't seen, and just learning more about his style. Definitely his work with Gordon Willis is the best.
I didn't really make any notes on it, but I did take my youngest daughter out to see The Wild Robot over the weekend.
Oh, I heard that's great.
It is as good as everyone says it is. Yeah. I actually was bawling at the end of the movie. It is that good. I guess you could compare it to things like maybe like The Iron Giant. But if this movie loses out to Inside Out 2 for Best Animated Film, I'm leaving this planet. And this movie is one of the best animated films I've seen in years.
Sure.
So it is that good. Nice. I think it's over. I saw it in the theater, and it's killing in the theater still, like in its 6th or 7th week. It's only dropping like a few percentage points every week, and yet it's making bank still. Right. But I think you can rent it or buy it online right now. But see it in the theater. It was so beautiful. It's not traditional animation. It almost has like a painterly quality to it, which I didn't know it was going to look like because I never even saw a trailer for it. I just had to take my daughter out to see something this weekend. It is that good. It is worth seeing. Awesome. It's worth seeing in the theater.
Oh, that makes me happy.
Yeah. Okay. I got nothing else. Maybe we should call it a night, and
sounds good.
Hopefully we are here next week.
Yeah, thanks for coming to my slumber party.
All right. That is the show for this week. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. Special thanks to Brian Ellsworth for our show opening. On behalf of all of us, we bid you farewell from the Fallout Shelter. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. For more episodes, go to backtotheframerate.com and follow us on social media at Back to the Frame Rate. Your support brightens our bunker. Until next time, stay with us. Keep hope alive, everyone, and share our show with your friends. This is the end of our transmission. Back to the Frame Rate, signing off.
I want you to know it's over.